It is 7 p.m. I would like to make one last call. At the lectern over here, there are agendas and the sign-in sheet for anyone that wishes to participate in public participation tonight. So please do that so Mr. Hedger, our clerk, can collect the paper, and then we can conduct that public participation later this evening. So we will begin our meeting tonight. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming out. We will first start with our prayer for NCH City Council, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone please stand. God our Father, we are all your servants. We trust in your mercy and love. We trust also in your guidance. Direct the meetings of this council of North College Hill to make good decisions for all the people who live in our city. Give all the members of this council wisdom and insight to know what is best for our city. Help us to be fair and just in all our decisions. Bless us all to do the very best we can. With your help and guidance, we pray this in your name. Amen. Amen. Call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you for coming this evening. Hope it wasn't too hard to find the PAC. So the Senior Center is a polling location, so the Board of Elections is over in that building, setting up this evening for tomorrow's election. So that necessitated us to find a place to go, and so we were able to move here. I do want to thank Mr. Eugene Blaylock, the superintendent of NCH Schools, the NCH School Board, and the high school staff for accommodating this move and allowing us to come in here early this afternoon to get things set up. My name is Mike Graver. I am the president of the City Council. I do want to just go over a few of the ground rules as we prepare to go through this meeting tonight. So just to review a few things before we continue into our agenda. The school has a facility use policy that is allowing us to use it here tonight. It does have a 10 p.m. end time. Due to this, we have adjusted our agenda by moving public participation to the end of our agenda tonight. This will allow us to quickly conduct our business and allow you as much time to address us as possible. When we get to public participation, each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes. I ask that you stick to this to ensure that as many speakers as possible can speak tonight. I will also give you a heads up if you are speaking when you have 30 seconds left. We ask that everyone maintains decorum throughout the meeting and that we are all respectful of the opinions and time of everyone. In an effort to let everyone speak, Council will likely not address questions this evening, and we do ask that we please refrain from outbursts and loud discussion when others are speaking. Disruptions can cause delays, and delays will limit the public participation time. I want you to have your time. Finally, please start by stating your name and your street address for the record. Once this has been stated, I will start the 3-minute clock. I do finally want to thank the ICRC team. They came in early today to get all of this set up so that we can have the stream as well as the public record on ICRC's website of this meeting to set up all of this audio to allow the media to come and tap into that. I do appreciate Mr. Brian Dye for all his work in doing this. Now, I was informed that unfortunately there may be intermittent issues with the live stream. They're working to make sure that that does not happen, but if there are issues, the recording of the meeting will be uploaded as soon as possible. So I am grateful that you are all here to participate in our city government. We will move on into our agenda. Mr. Hedger, when you're ready, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb.
Here.
Ms. DeWald.
Here.
Ms. Dukestein.
Present.
Ms. Alexander.
Here.
Ms. Brenner.
Present.
Mr. Davis.
Here.
Ms. Underwood.
Here.
Thank you. We have tonight's agenda.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. DeWald to accept tonight's agenda as presented. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. We have meeting minutes from the council, the regular council meeting on March 4th and the special council meeting on March 9th.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dewald?
I move to accept those minutes for both the 4th and the 9th.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I will second that.
Motion by Ms. Dewald, second by Ms. Zorb to accept the minutes from both the March 4th, 2024 meeting and the March 9th, 2024 meeting. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Next up is communication. Mr. Hedger, do you have any communication this evening?
I have no communication, Mr. President.
That will take us to council committees, starting with City Community Development and Recreation.
On March 11, 2024, 6:30 p.m., City Community and Development Recreation, we discussed the food truck parking lengths and permits and hours and operations, etc. We had to table that meeting because we have to modify suggested changes to Chapter 1181 of North College Hill Code Ordinance. And we're going over these ordinances to make necessary changes for the safety and better aspect of our city. And we also discussed a Yard of the Month, a beautification award. It's coming between May and August. We're still working out the logistics, but if this works, we'll probably add Halloween and Christmas to the awards. This will all be printed in a newsletter, and it'll be coming out shortly. We also discussed the welcome letter. We will be having a welcome letter for the new North College Hill residents. These will be hand-delivered to welcome and talk to the new residents of North College Hill. So that will be out soon, weather permit. As you can see now, it's snowing, so you're just trying to wait for some good weather to get out there. And our next meeting will be April the 8th at 6:30 at the Senior Center.
Thank you, Ms. Brunner. Next up is Budget and Finance.
Our last Budget and Finance meeting was Monday, March 11th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. In that meeting, we discussed the fire department roof repair. We talked about the sale of the ambulance on behalf of the fire department as well. We spoke upon the 2024 salary ordinance for city employees. We talked about the memorial for William Dunson. We went over our ADT update. We talked about the update on the splash pad, the city building, which is the municipal building update, and where we net out from not being there currently. In our new business section, we talked about our senior building and the updates with that. In old business, we talked about some legislation coming down the pike for our minors that work in the city of North College Hill. Our next official meeting is April the 8th of 2024. It will be held at the senior building at 7:30 p.m. until 8:30 p.m.
Thank you. Next up is Rules and Public Policy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next meeting will be on March 25th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you. Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our next meeting will be on March 25th at 7:30 p.m.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is ad hoc reports. Does anyone have an ad hoc report tonight?
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I'm supposed to attend the school board meeting, but I did not attend in lieu of attending the City Community and Development and Recreation, as there were anticipated a lot of citizens that wanted to come out and speak. So I didn't attend that meeting.
Thank you. Any other ad hoc reports this evening? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the administrative reports. Good evening, Madam Mayor. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would first like to start off by saying this is over the past week. I'll just say we're happy to have our firefighters join us and to come back. I know it was not a really easy week for them, nor was it for us, but we're happy to have you here. We actually have some in the audience tonight. Thank you for your service. You're greatly appreciated. And with that as well being said, just in order to get things together and keep things running, for the time being, Mr. Joe Plackey will be our interim fire chief, and we welcome him and we look forward to working with him as well. Thank you.
Does council have any questions for the mayor? All right, next up is the city administrator report. The city administrator is not with us this evening, so we'll move on to the law director's report. Mr. Dieters?
Mr. President, I have no report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is the finance director report, and we do not have a finance director at this time, so we will move to call of members, starting with Ms. Zorb.
Thank you, Mr. President. Considering the time restraint that we are under tonight for the 10 p.m. Closing of the meeting, I will surrender my call of members' time to enable more time for audience participation.
Thank you. Next up is Ms. Dewald.
Thank you. For those same reasons, I give my time up so the audience will have more time to speak.
Thank you. Ms. Dukestein.
I'd also like to very much be brief. I'm happy to have the firefighters back, but I will yield my time over so that we have people can speak.
Thank you. Ms. Alexander.
I'd like to also thank the firefighters for returning, and I would like to thank the citizens for coming and letting their voices be heard. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Bruner.
I'd just like to say, welcome to the council meeting. Everyone here is because they love the city. As chair of City Community Development and Recreation, we need your help to make North College Hill a better place to live. We want this city to grow into the beautiful place it deserves to be, with recreation for kids and cafes. Let's not be left out. It's going to take all of us, one step at a time. Progress is on the way, so let's get ready and get involved. There is a sign up out here to the left, or to the right of you guys, for signing for volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Yes, and I as well would like to welcome our firefighters back, and also welcome our friends, neighbors, and everybody. Thank you for coming in and meeting with us today. And also, through a stressful 2 weeks where absolutely nothing happened allegedly, I'd like to thank the following residents for communicating and, being able to express their disagreement without displeasure. I'd like to thank Ms. Kathy Curitan, Ms. Leah McCarnan, Ms. Mary Gallardo, Ms. Sandy Figure, and furthermore, we've got Ms. Andrea. As we exit the building, we're trying to engage the community. We're trying to engage the city. Please sign up. The efforts we want, if we want to make the city better, it takes all of us. Everybody's able to give some, and we're welcome to everybody's input. Once again, thank y'all for coming. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Ms. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, would like to say welcome home to our firefighters. I have worked extensively with them. I just want to say thank you for your service. Truly appreciate you. Looking forward to kind of working through all of our issues. And congratulations, Joe Plackey.
Thank you. All right, that will move us to legislation. Mr. Hedger, when you're ready.
Second reading, resolution number 3, 2024, a resolution authorizing the sale of certain city-owned vehicles no longer needed for any municipal purpose.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dewald.
I move to suspend the third reading.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I'd like to second that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Dewald, second by Ms. Dukestein to suspend the third reading of Resolution 3, 2024. Any discussion? All right, motion to suspend third reading of Resolution 3, 2024 made by Ms. Dewald, seconded by Ms. Dukestein. Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 3, 2024.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dewald?
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Zorb with a second by Ms. Dewald to adopt Resolution 3, 2024. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Mr. Wald,
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Second reading, Resolution Number 4, 2024, a resolution dispensing with the statutory bidding procedures due to conditions of urgent necessity related to the repair of a roof leak.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dewald?
I move to suspend third reading.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Ms. Dewald, second by Ms. Underwood to suspend the third reading of Resolution 4, 2024. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
according to the email that we received, I was under the impression that this problem was already resolved by a patch of the roof, and the immediate need was resolved by Public Works placing a tarp on the roof to prevent the immediate leak. So, and I believe Public Works had a a contractor come out and do an analysis, and the roof is still valid, will still stand for 5 more years. So I'm
Mr. President,
confused.
pardon me.
Ms. Dewald?
I do recall reading that. I rescind my suspension.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
Public Works putting a tarp on the roof does not yield for a permanent fix. That's temporary until we can actually get a repair. We talked about that in Budget and Finance.
So Ms. Dewald rescinded her motion to suspend the third reading. Would you like to make a motion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'll move to suspend the third reading
Mr. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Underwood.
for resolution, is it 4-2024?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I'd like to make a second that motion to suspend the third reading.
Motion by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. Dukestein. To suspend the third reading of Resolution 4, 2024. I think we've covered discussion, so Mr. Hedger, when you're ready, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
No.
Mr. Wald,
No.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Ms. Brunner,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion failed, 5-2.
To suspend readings, we need 6 yes votes, so that is why it failed at 5-2. All right, that is all of our legislation to cover tonight, so we will move to old business.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I'm not listed as members of the 3 committees that I'm members of, so I just wanted to make sure Mr. Hedger had me down as members of Budget and Finance, Public Safety, and Rules and Public Policy.
Mr. President,
Mr. Hedger?
can you, Ms. Underwood, could you repeat that?
Budget and Finance, Public Safety, and Rules and Public Policy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other old business?
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
along those same lines, I'm not sure that Mr. Davis has been assigned or has volunteered for his 2 committees. I believe he's only on 1 so far. I could be wrong.
Mr. Hedger, you have Mr. Davis down for 1 committee, correct?
That is correct, Mr. President.
Mr. Davis, what other committee do you want to participate in, sir?
That Recreation and Community Development, I'm saying that incorrectly.
City, Community Development and Recreation.
City, Community Development and Recreation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Need a motion to make that official, correct?
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I'd like to make a motion to accept Mr. Davis on the City Community and Development and Recreation Committee.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dewald?
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Ms. Dukestein with a second by Ms. Dewald to accept Mr. Davis on the City Community Development and Recreation Committee. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I'd just like to remind Mr. Davis that both of those meet on the same night. So when you come to one, you come to the other, 6:30.
Okay.
All right, motion to accept Mr. Davis on the City Community Development and Recreation Committee by Ms. Dukestein, second by Ms. DeWald. Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb?
Yes.
Ms. DeWald?
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Brunner?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Any other old business tonight?
Mr. President,
Mr. Hedger?
I did confirm, Ms. Underwood, you are on those committees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing no further old business, we'll move to new business. All right, hearing no new business, we'll move to remarks from the audience. So again, to remind everyone, once you have stated your name and your address for the record, I will be keeping a timer up here. You will have 3 minutes. I will let you know when you have 30 seconds left. I do ask that you try and wrap that up then at that point so that we can give everyone a chance to speak tonight. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Hedger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to say, if I mispronounce your name, it is not in a grievance. I'm awful at reading names. So, in the beginning, first we have Victor Wilson.
Good evening, Council. My name is Victor Wilson. I stay at 6930 Kleindale. I've been a resident for North College Hill for over a year now. Bought my house February 23rd, 2023. I'm here to state this, period. As a taxpayer, I've been here to every meeting. I've been to every committee meeting. I've listened to everybody's concern, and I believe this council has too. I'm in support of the fire department, police department, the city council, the residents, everybody that wants to be a part of North College Hill. I'm in support of all of y'all. And we all got to stand together. We got to stop throwing pebbles at glass windows that we all got. We ain't perfect, but we can make a better community working together instead of against each other. Ain't nobody out here got the answer. But if we come together and stop trying to point blame and start taking accountability, that's from my city government down to the residents of North College Hill. Every last one of us has to be accountable for what's going on here. So I say in closing, do what I do. Instead of believing everything that you hear and what everybody talking about, remember the information that you're getting it from people that's not showing up to these meetings. Show up to the meetings. When you show up to the meetings, you hear everything you need to hear to make the most positive decision for North College Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Next, we have Kimberly Bronner.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Brown, 6920 Kleindale Avenue. I have lived here for 24 years. Raised my family, and I think it's been a year. I'm kind of embarrassed to say since I was at the last meeting, but I did let a need be known that there was a little shack at Paul Pies Park at the end of my street that was falling in, and trees were in disrepair, falling over. And I just want to say thank you, because it was like a day or two later, I walked my dog and the shack was gone and the trees were all trimmed back, and it's been great. So I appreciate you being proactive and listening. Even though I'm not a regular, I plan to be going forward. And now I have one more request, same little Paul Pies Park. There are more trees that are leaning precariously over the parking lot. And I mean, with the winds that we have, and during the summer, the Little League football people come and that lot is full. And if those limbs fall, better to have them gone before it all happens, you know. So that's my request. And I love my North College Hill. And it's a great place to live. So like my neighbor said, let's really be involved, get it firsthand, so we can make have educated input and put in to our community in an educated manner. I love you all. God bless North College Hill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have April Taylor.
Hi, I'm April Taylor, 1706 Sterling Avenue, have been a resident of North College Hill for 36 years. We did raise our family here along with Kim. We were very involved in recreation and things in the community. And at that point, North College Hill was very transparent, the council and the mayor's office. I don't see that, and I am curious as to why. I believe because we have no transparency, we have issues that has recently transpired. What led to that? Why wasn't there things that were transparent? Why weren't there things fixed? Why weren't there things bought? I don't know, I'm asking you. If we take our time to elect you, then I believe that you should be considerate of us as well. We pay taxes, we live here, we maintain our homes, we want to live in a thriving, beautiful community. It once was, and I'm sorry to say that I don't feel that it is that way anymore. There are a lot of things that have slid downhill. And if we're not going to get answers tonight, when will we have answers? I mean, to me, it doesn't really seem to do a lot of good asking questions and then getting no answers. We're still in the same place. I mean, I don't mean to be rude. I'm just saying, I have reached out. Last summer, I sent emails to the mayor's office, and I'll be honest, I didn't even know what our mayor looked like. Never seen her, nothing. After weeks of no response, I called and said, does anybody check this email? I kind of got a half answer, and then when I questioned again, there was never any response back at all. There was a young woman in the office that did answer some questions, but I think she was just a secretary. I appreciated her effort. But I have another question. On Goodman, for I don't know how many years, 2 years maybe, there's this eyesore, I can't call it anything else, bits of steel sticking out of the ground with some notice that it's supposed to be something. It's never materialized into anything. It's an eyesore. Up on Goodman, where the Roses is, and that whole strip through there, that'd be a wonderful business district
30
instead
seconds.
of putting things into neighborhoods. This isn't the 1950s anymore. Bars don't belong by our homes. It's trash that we have to pick up, or disarray, or everything else that has caused us as homeowners to have a lot of extra work to do. So I do appreciate it, and I will expect to find out when we get answers on some of our questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a Debbie Niehoff.
Hi, I'm Debbie Niehoff. I live at 6944 Rob Verne Drive. Thank you for this opportunity, but like my predecessor, I was very sorry to hear I have only 3 minutes and there will be no answers. So I'll just tell you what I have found. Upon reading about our firemen and our fire department, who we all depend on, I was referred in the article I was reading to the Ohio Auditor of State, Keith Faber's audit of the city of North College Hill. I'd like to know why our finances are in such a disarray. It's a 107-page report. I've printed out the findings. They're most disturbing. There are large amounts of money that seem to be unaccounted for. I would like to talk to the finance department, and I have 50 years of experience in accounting. If the city needs help, I'm retired now, I'll volunteer. This is just crazy. I was shocked and I was ashamed that our city has a report like this about it. If the firemen have issues with getting their funding, this report doesn't help the city, it helps the firemen. And I don't think it's fair to say the firemen blew something out of context and it wasn't right for them to walk out when they weren't getting any answers or any help. There has to be transparency, and we do, as the first speaker said, have to work together in good faith. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ed von Liemaden. Excuse the pronunciation.
Mr. President.
Ms. Dukestein.
Sorry, Mr. Hedger, do you mind repeating? I didn't hear you down here.
It's Ed von Liemaden.
Lemden, von Lemden.
Von Linden.
Ed von Lemden, 1615 Market Street. I just felt the need to come and talk tonight because I was a member of the fire department from 2008 to 2018, and I've read some very disturbing things on social media and also on the news stations and things like that. So I want to cover over the history of the 15 years that I know from 2008 to the present, and specifically talk about what the fire department has accomplished in the last 15 years, and especially under Chief Fells. Chief Fells was a longtime resident of North College Hill. He grew up in North College Hill. He's a graduate of North College Hill, and he loves the city more than anything. He is also a veteran. In 2008, when I had over 10 years of experience, I came to North College Hill for a few reasons. Chief Fells had a vision to increase staffing. At the time, there was only 3 part-time firefighters on station, which did not provide to NFPA standard of firefighters to be allowed to go into interior fire structure, which meant we would have to wait for mutual aid companies. So Chief Fells increased the staffing to 4 people, which allowed us to do interior firefighter attack as soon as we got there. We also had no paramedic service in 2008. As somebody who's an EMS instructor for over 20 years, EMS is really my bread and butter, and bringing ALS service to North College Hill was ultimately the best decision that Chief Fells could ever do. That's literally the difference between life and death with administering cardiac medications, all kinds of different advanced procedures. It was a 2-year process, as I was an EMS lieutenant at the time, of evaluations, audits, staffing levels, and other things like that. After that, he was able to purchase a Quint, so we went from a ladder truck and an engine to a combined vehicle, which gave us the ability to use a ladder truck and a pumper, substantially reducing the cost of having 2 expensive vehicles. Then there came the fire levy, and I would just like to brief, because I know my time is very short. Both North College Hill and Mount Healthy advised the best option was a joint fire district where we would operate on ourselves. Both the councils on both at the time wanted their own individuals, and we gave 3 options. City Council chose between the lowest option and the middle option and gave us that funding. We went out and overwhelmingly passed that levy. We had ride-alongs with residents and council.
30 seconds.
We had 2 council members that did the ride-alongs with us. And I thought it was very, very disrespectful to hear that these are just minor issues or that the fire department somehow let the community down. That is completely inaccurate and disrespectful, not only to just the firefighters, but the families of firefighters. These family members, spouses, husbands and wives, children, literally spend thousands of hours, holidays, special occasions without their mom and dad because of the job they serve. In closing, I would like to say, I would ask you to follow Ms. Long and Ms. Mason's leadership, but also the leadership of the community, that the fire department reserves respect of everyone, and these are not minor issues, and I appreciate you coming to the table and the firefighters getting back to work. So I do see hope, and I would say thank you, but I do believe an apology to the families is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a Tyree Scherer.
Live at 1637 DeArmond Avenue. I've been a resident for almost 5 years. At one point in time, I had a home office in my dining room, but I had to move it because I saw so many near accidents at DeArmond and Parrish Avenue. Just today, I witnessed about the 5th accident at that intersection where the car was nearly just a few feet from my home. Is there anything that can be done? From every accident that I've seen is from the car coming on the one-way part of DeArmond and not recognizing that there's a stop sign there and T-boning always the car that's going in either direction on Parrish. I'm disappointed that I'm not going to get any answers, but I just want to address my concerns because it's bad.
It's been noted.
That's all I have. And also, I called EMS about 2.5 weeks ago in the middle of the night, and I was very, very pleased with the care that I received as a healthcare provider myself. So I was hurt when I heard that there was a problem, but I'm glad it's resolved.
Thank you.
We have a Wallace Robinson. Pass. We have a Tony Pohl.
Tony Pohl, 6922 Gloria Drive. Lifelong citizen of this city. I worked for the fire department for 10 years. I'm very disappointed in council. The transparency is not there. You know, you find out that the fire department's quitting because the city's not currently giving them their money. You know, I thought maybe we'd have some answers tonight, but the city administrator can't even show her face. The human resource lady, nowhere to be found. Couldn't find her with a search warrant. I think you all need to do your jobs a little bit better and get away from having all these problems with the fire department. You know, there's a couple of council members I think just totally despise the fire department. And I'm sure you know who you are. But thanks for the firefighters coming back, and hopefully we get everything straightened out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Curtin.
Good evening, Kathy Curtin, 6718 Devonwood Drive. First and foremost, there has to be answers tonight. My clock shows 7:41, and I know that you have put on the agenda to not ask any questions, but as a mom who works full-time, I have pulled myself from my family to be present, and to not get anything answered, not even a few questions answered, seems super problematic. We'll all go home, we'll sleep tonight and tomorrow, and then next week and the week after. When will we see change? A couple of things I would like to clarify. If you can just simply raise your hand. Who was president on council in 2017? You may or may not be honest and raise your hand, but I recognize in 2017, there was a vote of non-confidence for the existing law director, Bill Dieters. What has happened? He's still present. Mary Jo, I believe you were on council in 2017. You signed that no vote of confidence for Bill Dieters that says he was speaking derogatory to council members and speaking down to you all, and he's still present, and he blatantly disrespected our fire department last week? Yeah, that's problematic. That's problematic. Equally, when I saw Chief Fails on administrative leave, I wondered, did he violate his oath? Did he break a rule? Did he do something that caused him to be on administrative leave? Or was that a tactic used by our city administration, every single person to say, I got you? That seems wrong. He has been a lifelong resident of North College Hill. He has faithfully served how many years? 20 plus years? And if there was anything that has happened in our city productively for our fire department, he was right there to stand behind it. He deserves an apology, not tomorrow. He deserves an apology tonight, because the way he was disrespected and the way that he was just told not to communicate with his staff any longer is just blatant disrespect. You loved him 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you absolutely loved him. But when he spoke out against what you all wanted, and I say you all because I'm speaking to the council at large, he was then a problem. And the way that he was treated is absolutely wrong. In addition, I want to say that when you think about a person who lives in a city and how we all want to be together, love each other, and do all these wonderful things, that's beautiful to see, but we have to see some immediate change. If there is issues with this audit, why? Why did Mary Jo Zorb contact the state to say there's a police officer who's clocking time incorrectly? Why is that happening? Why are all of these things, why can't we have a clear budget? I'm an accountant. Why can we not have a clear budget of what comes in, what goes out, and it's clear to understand? I even recognized there was something online that said they tried to do an audit in 19 and 20, and everything was so sporadic, they couldn't even follow. The state of Ohio has said that. That is super problematic. So I am going to ask, and I don't even know if it's part of the charter's rule that says you cannot answer questions this evening, but I am going to ask, Madam Mayor, we respect you, I honor you, but I'm going to ask that if you will allow your council to at least address a couple of questions on tonight, to allow each of these faithful citizens to know that you hear us, you see us, and that you definitely want to see a change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim O'Shea.
Jim O'Shea, formerly of 1916 Acorn, currently the Vice President of the North College Hill Chamber of Commerce. we have, as a chamber, we have some concerns about some things obviously that have gone on. Obviously, the chamber is trying to improve the community at large, is trying to help the business area, the business district. And when we see some of the things that have happened, we were confused. I had noticed that Ms. Ecke had stated that Chief Schramm was going to be the public safety director. But I don't know if that took effect or what, because now we're hearing that Joe Plackey will be the interim chief. So it's just confusing, and I think, as you've heard tonight, that we would really like some answers so we can move forward and know how to talk to other people, talk to our neighbors, talk to other businesses that we may be able to bring in from a chamber standpoint. I recall that, from the best of my knowledge, there is no such position as a public safety director. So again, we find that confusing. And if there's no position, we're confused as to why or how he may be paid for that position. And again, I just think because there hasn't been a lot of communication directly from the administration, the council, directly to the people or to the chamber, we feel that we don't know what's going on, and we really need to know what's going on so that we can help move forward with the city. So as you've heard, we would hope that we would get some answers. If we're not going to get answers tonight, when are we going to get answers? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gloria Holland.
Gloria Holland, 1604 Goodman Avenue. I agree with everything that Kathy says. I think she spoke very well for all of us. And I didn't get anything out of this council meeting. Nothing. And you guys were talking this other stuff. You go to a committee meeting, and you're not allowed to ask questions at the committee meetings, and then you come here and you guys vote on this stuff, and we don't know what the hell you're talking about. And we need to know. And you won't answer questions. I thought it was very nice at the last meeting, the committee meeting, between the meetings, people that were there on the council did stand up, introduce themselves, said some good things about the fire department. My biggest problem with that meeting is Mr. Dieters is an employee of the city. He was not voted in. He has no right to give his personal opinion about our fire department like he did that night. That was a personal opinion, and he should not be allowed to do that. I don't know what you need to do. Since you guys had a vote of no confidence on him before, what do we need to do? We need answers, and you guys don't want to give us any, so we have to believe other stuff we hear. The stuff we see on Facebook and stuff, I'm not saying it's all true, it's not all false, but you are the people who can give us the answers. And when you don't give us the answers, what does that look like? So you need to give us the answers. Brian Fells is a very good fire chief. Why was he put on administrative leave? Does anybody know? Has anybody been told why our fire chief was put on administrative leave? Sounds like whistleblower stuff to me. Well, they won't tell us what, so excuse me, it's my turn to talk.
Please allow her to speak. Thank you.
Okay, so somebody tell us. Then you accept his letter to come back, but he's still on administrative leave. So we would like to know some answers. When are you going to give them to us? What do we have to do to find out what's going on? If you can't give us answers, at least tell us who can or where we can go to get them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Hedger.
No further audience signed in.
Thank you, sir. So I apologize. I anticipated more people to sign in and speak. That is why I prefaced that with just letting everyone speak. So at this time, we do have time. So if anyone from council or the administration would like to respond to any of these questions.
Mr.
This
President.
is our time. Ms. Dukestein?
I'd like to respond as much as I can to some of the stuff, some of the things that we're not at liberty to discuss, because we cannot publicly talk about personnel issues, okay? So that's what I'll first say. So I'm just go down the list because I tried to take notes, and I know that I will not satiate every single question that you have, but what I will say is that hopefully there will be others that will, I'm sure, want to speak. And I would like to get contact information for you all if you have it on the list up there. If not, please do that before you leave. And let the council members respond to your questions via email. I would also like to extend an invitation for you to come out the first and third Mondays of each month. That is their council meeting dates. They start at 7 p.m. You will get more answers. You will understand more about the legislation and what we're talking about if you attend on a more regular basis. If you cannot publicly attend, that's fine. There is also options to watch it online. And if you, in your leisure, you can have the ability to look it up and watch it. The committee meetings meet on the opposite Mondays, which are the 2nd and 4th, Budget and Finance, and Community, I'm sorry, I always have to.
City Community Development Recreation.
City Community Development Recreation. That's Ms. Brunner down there. Ms. Brunner, if you raise your hand, please. And then I'm Budget and Finance. So to the best of my ability, I will answer questions about budget and finance. And then there is Rules and Public Policy, which is that over to you? I'm sorry. That's Erica Underwood still, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then Public Safety is Ms. DeWald right next to me. And so if you have questions in those areas, so everybody has so much to say, so many questions in all different areas. I'm just going over when the committees meet so that you know what night to show up according to the way your question is. So I don't really have anything to address with Mr. Vic, who came up, but thank you for telling us about the trees in Plies Park. And they were like, last time when I remember when you came and talked about the shack, and we were able to get that resolved. And then there was the lady's name was April Taylor. She talked about the transparency. The best thing that I can offer you with the transparency from council is to attend those meetings so that you have the transparency. We're talking about these issues. This is not the first time that we started speaking on things. If you go back and look at those meetings, some of those things are there. And so in lieu of just keeping the fluidity of tonight, I just cannot express to you enough, if you cannot attend the meetings, all of our email addresses, and unfortunately our phone numbers too, are public information. You can reach out to those committees, reach out to us. I promise you, each one of our council members will respond. We're not able to always use public spaces to respond. So your best bet in terms of transparency is those meetings. And, you know, unfortunately, our committee meetings, you have to ask questions about what's in that committee because those are the designated spaces to handle those concerns. So I just wanted to address our previous Monday because we do want to address your concerns. I think all of us do. All of us are probably itching to address concerns. However, on those meeting nights, because those committees are set up to handle issues that are underneath the guise of those topics, is why we didn't open it up to talk about the fire department and what is going on. So, so the last committee meeting, which was, yes, we didn't open it up to talk about the fire department because we have to get the issues that are taken care of underneath the guise of those committees. He was.
Excuse me.
Hang on.
We'll let Ms. Dukestein continue.
Just to address that one comment, and I'm just not trying to be respectful of what your comment was. We were given space to introduce ourselves, and that's what happened. So, Debbie Niehaus, she talked about no answers And so, again, I just wanted to reiterate the right spaces and the finances being in disarray. The budget and finance is the right space to come and figure out what's going on. We have had some audit issues, and part of what we were trying to do is correct those audit issues. We've had a lot of transition in our administration. We've had a change of employment, and because of that, you know, continuity is not had from one person to the next. So we've lost the essence of some of the reporting, and we've been trying to regain that. The only thing you can do when you have changes in HR is to try to pass from one person to another. Sometimes there's not overlap in training, so when new people come on, they're not abreast of everything that needs to be done and checking those boxes. I promise you that if you come to the Budget and Finance meeting, you will definitely see that council members are holding everyone accountable in order to get to the right space. There are not large buckets of money missing. There are not, I don't know what to say about that. I don't believe that that's in the audit. There are not large buckets of money missing. We are audited every so often. The state audits us every other year. And so that is a natural progression, just to make sure that we are running properly as a city. We have state requirements and things that we have to do as a checks and balance to make sure that our finances are running and in order.
Excuse me, I would like, if you would like to address council, then I can allow that, but yeah, not from your seat there.
Yes.
So are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Please do state your name and your address.
My name is Sandy Ficker. I live at 6790 Richard Avenue. So what prompted all this with the fire department is not part of the audit. Okay, then what, see, to get everybody's mind around everything and what prompted the fire department to do what they did, what happened? We want to know. We want to know. Why did the bottom fall out? We're not getting any answers, and everybody going to meetings. You can't find the answer to this. If you go to a budget meeting, if you go to a rec meeting, we want to know from you tonight or soon. It doesn't make sense. You can sit at a meeting and go through all this, and we still don't get answers. I don't, you know, I don't want to complain. I just want to know why the bottom fell out of our fire department. Sorry? But at the committee meetings, the council meetings aren't going to answer this. They're not going to answer the insecurity that we have.
Mr. President.
Thank you.
Ms. Dukestein.
I'm not going to be perfect at all the answers, and I invite everyone to jump in here and help. But what I will say is that the disagreement between the disconnection between what happened with the fire department, some of it was just changes, and changes are difficult, to say the least. And when people don't agree, and there's, they express their discontent, we have to walk through that slowly to come to mutual spaces. And on the behalf of the fire department, and I'm stumbling through because I want to make sure that I answer the question honestly, because you deserve that. We were not able to come to a resolve before the fire department became frustrated with leaders. The best thing I can tell you is that we were able to come to a resolve now. Sometimes we are, as Mayor said on her statement on, I think, Saturday, we are a small city. We don't always agree about things, and the right thing to do is to sit together and come up with the right answers for the department and for the city to move forward. And, you know, if anyone's ever, you know, worked in any of these spaces, you know that you don't always agree the way to skin a cat. There are multiple ways. And so we had some concerns that we were trying to address with the audit. And I say we, meaning administration. City council particularly didn't have a lot of say-so in some of the things that went on. we were made aware at some point as we were trying to figure out how to get to the right space. And what I can assure you is that as the issues came forward with the things that made the fire department unhappy, we have begun to look at those under a microscope and address those singularly. In some spaces, the fire department helped us be able to navigate what should be better for them. And then in some spaces, we will be able to talk to the fire department and change some things on their end to be able to navigate those spaces better. You're not always going to agree. Unfortunately, it came to a head in this season, in this 2024 year, under the tutelage of this council and that our mayor, Tracy Nichols. But I assure you that all of us are hard pressed to resolve the issues and to move forward so that we will have EMT services. We love the firefighters. We love our EMT services, and I appreciate the one person that talked about receiving the EMT, I think it was Tara, where she talked about she had a EMT response and they serviced very well. We love them. We want them back. And we've made steps and strides to make sure that that happens.
Anyone else on council or administration like to address any of the questions?
Mr. President.
Ms. Nichols?
That was Ms. Underwood.
Oh, it was Ms. Underwood. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's a little different here, trying to figure out who's talking. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to say that we absolutely support our firefighters. Absolutely. What I would also like to say is that I appreciate everybody who is present in this room today, but I would challenge you to pay closer attention to what goes on this city council. I would challenge you to get copies of these agendas and copies of these documents so that when we're up here voting and when we vote on something, you understand exactly what is going on. That way, your questions, I believe, will answer themselves. I would just ask you, yes, ma'am, you probably need to step to the podium. I would ask you, because the documents are here.
We get the documents?
I believe that all of the agendas are posted on the city's website.
Okay, because
So,
first of all, this young lady, I can hear the emotion in your voice, and I appreciate you stepping up and taking the heat for your fellow councilman, to be honest. I appreciate that. And I am not meaning to be, I don't know. I'm asking a question because I honestly don't know the answer. Is there a gag order on the mayor? Is that like you don't say things in council meetings?
I do speak. I do.
Okay, I didn't know. I didn't know if there was
This
some.
is their meeting, and I'm respectful of their meeting.
Got it. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. I have sent emails, like I said. I did send an email, and I had to wait weeks and ask somebody, like, does anybody check these emails? Can somebody respond to me? And I do have a question, because I noticed that there's someone missing. Is it Elke? Whatever her, Elke, whatever. I had some dealings with her last summer on something that I was looking to help out with. And we met once, and it was a small issue. It's not a major issue like the fire department, but she lied to me, and I know she lied to me. If she lied to me in a small issue, then it kind of doesn't surprise to me that maybe in bigger issues she would have problems telling the truth. I don't mean to be rude, that's my experience. So is she not part of city council anymore? Is she not part of the city? Nobody can answer that?
She's not here.
We can't answer that.
Okay, so I want to clarify how we get answers. You told me when things meet, when different departments meet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when those committees meet, that's when you are allowed to answer our questions? Will there be some type of public statement about our Chief Fells? Will there be some statement about how you kind of came together to work things out as a city? Will there be something released?
Mr. President, may I?
Ms. Underwood.
What I will tell you is that we are a small city. We are a small community.
Oh, I know.
We are a family. Families fight. They do.
Yes, they do.
We are trying to figure out, just like when you have the big Thanksgiving dinner and everybody's around the table and something happens in the kitchen, you're trying to determine like who said what, to whom, why, how it was said. That is what we're trying to figure out right now. The most important thing for us was to get our firefighters home.
Yes.
They are home, but now we got to figure out and kind of go through what happened and figure things out from there. And we are working on that. I would just ask for your continued patience. You see a result. The firefighters are in their department. They're at work. There are some in the meeting here. I see some present in the back there. So just give us a little bit of grace while we kind of work through this very difficult time.
Okay.
We will figure out what's going on, do our best to answer your questions. But again, just the agenda gives you a lot of information. The minutes gives you a lot of information.
And those can be obtained by going to City Hall?
You can go to the city's website, or you know what, if you want a copy, you can contact me. I will give you a copy.
Okay.
I will email you copies.
Okay.
I will print them out at my office, which is right down the street.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
So I think I had Ms. Alexander first, and then Ms. Nichols.
And
Did I have anybody else down here? Okay.
I just want to reiterate what Ms. Dukestein said, that some things are HR issues. And just like in our everyday workplace, some things have to stay in HR and won't be presented to the public out of respect to the parties involved. You know, I'm not saying that everything that occurred was HR, but some things are going to be in between the entities that it was, you know, with the fire, you know, Chief Fells, maybe he doesn't want everything out because confidentiality. So I just wanted to reiterate. Excuse me?
What you are allowed to convey to us as tax-paying citizens will be conveyed. Is that what you're saying?
It may
Yes, ma'am,
come
absolutely.
from administration. You know, I'm a tax-paying citizen here too, so I'm there with you. I'm there with you, and I think sometimes people forget that we live here too, and everything that affects you also affects us. Once again, and I think also coming to the meetings will give you more insight on what council is actually involved in. Council is not all the time involved in the upper crust, the city administration type things. And I think that's a misconception that, you know, council can hire and fire, and that's not the case. That's all.
Ms. Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. President. I did want to address Ms. Taylor, and when you came up earlier. So you talked about a couple things. One of the things I needed to go back and check, because we did have an exchange on June 26th and then on July 9th, and then I do not remember the date, but I did call you back and we had a phone conversation. And you said there was no need to meet at that time. I did speak with Ms. Iki, and she did tell me that she had met with you as well. Ms. Sager did tell me that you came in to meet with her as well. So I'm not sure where the communication lapsed that way. And you made a comment about the over on Goodman, the steel beam. So what happened is the gentleman is opening a restaurant, but he had his construction company, the initial one that he had, backed out or something along those lines where they didn't finish the project. So he has to find someone else in order to complete that. Okay. Okay. So what I will do is check with our building inspector to see where they are with that project. That was the last information I was given.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I actually did have that one down, and I'm sorry I didn't have the ability to address it, but a representative from the person building that did say that they were in the second phase. It hasn't been years. It's been a little less than a year, probably about March or April. This time last year is when that project first kicked off. So they've actually been in that time frame less than a year. So that's just to address that particular issue. They have been in contact with the city to kind of let us know what their step-by-step process is. And if they're egregious against some internal building and code offense, we will definitely be addressing them with that.
Mr. President.
Ms. Brunner?
My name is Donna Bruner. I know a lot of you guys don't know me. I have not been on the council a year yet. Since I've been here, I have never seen a crowd this huge. And council meetings are important. Your community is important. And when you walk away and don't pay attention to what's going on, these things will happen, and that's what goes on. When I got here, I hit the ground running. I had a household hazardous waste, people clean out their garages and come. We almost had more people outside the city coming in than North College Hill people. And the ones that did come through here appreciated everything. It was online. It was said at the council meetings. It's a disconnect that's going on here. That's why my committee, and I met a young lady, her name is Andrea Brooks. We just met about a month ago. We had similar things in common, just like you have similar things in common. You want the best for your neighborhood. You want that legacy to keep going for your children and for your kids. You grew up here, you love it here. Me and her connect just like this. We came up with this get involved sign-up thing out here. I come to cleanup day. I am the only one there. That was before I came on council. Then once I got on council, I continued to be the only one there. We walked around, we did our paper, we did our things. It's a disconnect. You have to get involved. Committee meetings and council meetings and the internet is very important. It's 2024. If you want to do these things better, you are the community. Sitting right here in this room. And I will appreciate if you guys, when you guys come to the meetings or you go online, you can keep up with what's going on. I mentioned the food trucks. This was back, we just continuing it, and I'm just giving a progress of what's going on. This is how these meetings go. And I would appreciate everybody to come. Sign up, get involved. Be North College Hill. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, ma'am, bear with me here for just a second, please. I'll allow you to speak. I would ask that you get with Mr. Hedger, our clerk, and sign in at some point so he has the record, but please start with your name and address.
My name is Kengor Jackson. I reside at 1635 Sundale Avenue. And I beg to differ. We are not a family in North College Hill. Families do not subject their families to what we're going through in North College Hill. We have a bar, 2 bars, on Savannah, and then we're gonna let him build another building on Goodman, because that is his building that you see. So welcome to the second Good Brothers that's going there. So we're not a family. We don't have the same interest. There's a lot of crime there, so we're just gonna extend it to Goodman. That's all I hear. So I'd like that to be addressed, and what can we do to shut them down? Is that a part that you can answer, Mary DeWald? Or you're part of public safety, correct? I don't feel safe.
I'm sorry that you don't feel safe, and I understand. But we are at a point where we've had executive session and an investigation. We cannot divulge everything at this time until the investigation is over, and then we have auditors to come in yet. So I would love to share everything that we have uncovered at this point. It's just not possible. We've taken an oath ourselves to do what's best for the city.
So we let him build a second building on good.
Well, and honestly, this is the first time I heard that it was.
Is it not the same person, Tracy? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the first I've heard that it was the Good Brothers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's the same person.
Mr. President,
So we'll have a second Good Brothers, and we can just be one big happy family.
Ms. Dukestein.
I just wanted to address that. To be a family, you have to get invested and involved in a family. I appreciate your concerns.
I've been invested for 25 years, raised my children up in this community. I have not been to the city council meetings because I am a nurse and I work different hours. But I did elect officials to make good decisions for me. I do come out to vote.
And I would say that, to your comment about the bars, there's one bar on, what is that, Savannah?
There's two.
Yes, but they're not owned by the same person.
They're not, two different entities.
And one of the bar owners on Savannah is responsible for the location on Goodman. However, that is a pickleball, that's projected to be a pickleball location, not a bar. It's a restaurant.
It says College Bar, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. It
What
says
does the
college.
sign say?
It says College Station, I believe.
Okay.
But if you look on the sign, it's for the projected business is a restaurant and pickleball for pickleball.
Okay.
Okay, excuse me. Do you have anything else that you wish to address?
I don't know, but what do we have to do to get them shut down? I don't know who's with me, but is there a petition? Okay, let's do something.
Okay.
Because how many people have to get shot there? In the neighborhood?
Ma'am,
Oh,
you-
next to the family.
You have 30 seconds to, and please, in the audience, if we could just allow the person that's speaking to speak.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald.
I would like to address the woman that's just left the podium. We
Please.
don't know everything that's going on in the city. There's a liquor license that would have to come through. That's how we would find out about the Good Brothers taking over this business. So unless we hear from other officials in the city, it's not our responsibility to do that kind of tracking. And I hate to use that word, it's not our responsibility. But we can only know what they tell us. If those inspectors aren't telling us what's going on, we have no way of knowing. Oh, we know about the shootings. I didn't know about the Good Brothers owning this property now. Sorry.
Mr. President,
Ms. Orr.
I'd just like to point out that I heard from our friends at ICRC, and when the audience members are speaking out, that is not being conveyed through the microphones and to the people online. They're not being heard.
And I would ask that people in the audience are not just shouting out, please. All right. Again, please make sure you sign in with Mr. Hedger and start with your name and your address.
Shauna O'Shea, 5637 Sagecrest Drive. My question is very simple. I know that a lot of the contention between the firefighters in the city was with Ms. Ecke and with the HR person, I don't know her name. The rumor has it that Ms. Ecke is on administrative leave. My very poignant question requires a yes or no. Is she still a city employee, Ms. Ecke? And will she be a city employee after her administrative leave is finished?
Ms. O'Shea, the law director has instructed me not to comment on that.
Can you explain to me why the law director
Because, most probably because it's an employee matter, a personnel matter that we are still working through.
So you can't tell me why, whether how long she's going to be on administrative leave or if she's going to be fired?
That is a personnel matter, and I'm not comfortable talking about someone's personnel matters publicly. It's not, I don't think it's fair to them.
Okay.
Again, folks,
Other comments?
please, I apologize, but to conduct the meeting, I have a speaker, and the mayor is also speaking, so please allow that.
Then I have one more question. Is there a list of, if you can speak of, the list of things that you promised the firefighters to come back that we can be privy to that?
I can tell you one of the things was with the billing, with the EMS billing. So one of the issues was that if the legislation existed or not. I myself looked for weeks for that particular legislation. I even looked last week to try to find where it was on the item line. So when the legislation that I found did not say fire equipment fund. It said fire salaries. And so what has happened is, in order to maintain that account for the fire department, the one thing that we did, we are creating legislation in order to have those funds continue to flow in the way that they were moved. They weren't moved, but placed into the general fund.
Now, I could be wrong, and please, someone on city council that is older, not older as an age, excuse me. But when I was on city council, to my knowledge, we never put forth a resolution or a ordinance for the billing. It was just done.
Mr. President,
it was just given.
Can I address that?
Mr. Dieters.
Mr. Shea, there's in Ohio Revised Code, in order to have a special revenue fund outside of the general fund, you have to have an ordinance to do so. There's only a few those types of funds that you're able to create. Apparently for years, that money was coming, the firefighters were doing a tremendous job of collecting that. For those of you who don't know what EMS billing is, when a squad, an ambulance squad, picks up somebody in North College Hill and has to provide services, whether it's basic life service or advanced life services, we will typically bill that individual's insurance company if they're covered, and then we get a Medicare reimbursement. So the federal government has a certain reimbursement depending on whether or not it was basic life-saving services or paramedic services that were offered. North College Hill, with Chief Fell's guidance and direction, has done a tremendous job of collecting that. They're proud of it, and they should be, because they've done a great job on it.
Yes.
Unbeknownst to me, and to probably anyone up here sitting in front of anyone here today, when the audit came back, the auditor said, this money's going into a special revenue fund, but we can't find any legislation that has created such fund. That became a big dispute between the city administration's office and the fire department. along with some other disputes related to that. When I found out about it, I said to the mayor and to the fire department, we can create a special revenue fund if we can't find the legislation. We were told that the legislation existed, that they thought it was passed sometime back in 2002 or 2003. And so there was a little bit of a delay in creating it, because if we already created it, we didn't want to create it again. That was one of the issues. So the money that was going into that fund was never used for anything other than its original intent, which was to purchase equipment and fixtures for the fire department. It just had to go into the general fund because we didn't have that special revenue fund created. The legislation's already been drafted. It'll be introduced at I think the finance committee, at the next finance committee, and it'll happen. I know many of you are frustrated with me for what I said last time, and I'm sorry. I've been involved with trying to resolve this issue between two sides that I thought were both acting a little unreasonable, and as a mediator, sometimes you get frustrated with that. What I can tell you is that every issue were issues that were solvable. And in my opinion, there was culpability, like there many times is, on both sides, and I couldn't get them together to resolve it. I still think that what happened wasn't the right thing, but people do what they have to do. I know you're frustrated and wanting the graphic details. Part of my job is to protect the city from liability. So there's only so many details we can give you about about HR issues. I think the council person to my left said it best. You need to be patient with us and understand that everybody up here is doing things in the best interest of the city. But some of the details we're not going to disclose because they would be details that would be harmful to the individuals involved on both sides.
Thank you.
And Ms. O'Shea, I do want to add, I did receive legislation today that I will be forwarding to the Finance Committee in regards to creating that special fund for the fire department billing to go into.
Can I just ask one more thing, Mr. Dieters? So you're saying that from when I was on council that there was supposed to be that we were supposed to be doing it one way and we were not. Is that what you're saying?
Right, so I think council at some point made a commitment. I've been a law judge since 2011, so it was before me, and I think it was before the time that you were on council as well, that there was a commitment that that fund would go into purchasing equipment for the fire department, capital improvement equipment, and had continued to do that, but then every time we had an audit, the audit would identify that we were deficient in that area. And let me also explain something. I know somebody brought the audit report up. When the state auditor actually audits every public entity, every public subdivision in the state of Ohio has to be audited annually. So it's every year you're audited, and that's a check and balance to ensure that taxpayers' funds are being utilized in accordance and compliance with the law. There's usually two parts to that audit. One part is just to make sure the money that you say you have, and it hasn't floated away somewhere else, right? The other part of the audit is sort of what I would consider to be like accounting practices and procedures. It's usually what they call a management letter, where there's not a finding of recovery against a political subdivision, but it's saying, hey, these accounting procedures need to be shored up, or these funds need to be changed, or you need a resolution for this or that. We had continuously been getting identified deficient in the special revenue fund and timesheets for part-time employees. And those were issues that had to be remedied, and this is where I don't have the liberty to keep talking about specifics other than that, but to say that those were kind of the two things that kind of initially caused the dispute. I believe we'll have those, most of those issues are resolved or will be resolved soon. So basically we were putting it into that special revenue fund, but under the belief, in the mistaken belief, that a piece of legislation existed, and it did not.
Thank you.
Or if it did, we can't find it, and there's no record of it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Sir, again, please make sure that you make the effort to sign in with the clerk after the fact. Start with your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes.
James Taylor, 1706 Sterling Avenue. I just have a few questions, actually, and one statement. The statement is, I don't believe that property is large enough for an establishment and pickleball. I don't know if any of you have ever seen a pickleball court before, but to put an establishment there in that space and pickleball, I don't believe that property is large enough to do that. And that just comes from, you know, my background. My second thing is or is it not the roof repaired?
Mr. President, I think I can.
Mr. Dieters.
I believe the discussion was that we wanted to look at the roof on both sides of the building, and that we were going to temporarily provide some type of repair on the one side that was leaking so we could get a comprehensive plan to fix both sides of the building. That's how I remember it.
Yes, and I do want to clarify something there, if I may. We did not suspend the third reading on that legislation. That legislation will be on our next meeting agenda for the third reading, at which point we will take the vote to pass it or not.
So you're going to vote whether or not you fix the roof?
We were going to vote whether or not to pass that piece of legislation, and that legislation actually was not directly involved with repairing the roof. It was
It says
to
roof leak.
It was to dispense with statutory bidding procedures due to condition of the urgent necessity related to the roof. So this was to remove the typical bidding process to hopefully speed up getting the roof repaired, yes.
Okay, but the one fact of all of that issue is if we voted for this levy, that should have been the first thing done, is to repair that roof. The first thing done. Because if the roof goes, you have no fire department. So where do you put your equipment? Where do you put your trucks? Because the roof just collapsed because you did not fix the leak. Take it from me, I work construction, I know what happens. I voted in for all their money. The roof should have been the first thing on the agenda, nothing else. That's what's the term? Besides common sense, it's life safety is what that
30
is.
30 seconds, sir.
And you're going to time me and you let everybody else speak their piece?
You have 30 seconds, sir.
Does council have say of any kind of businesses that come into this city? So anybody could put a business in here if they buy the property? Is that what you're saying? I mean, you just shook your head no, so that tells me that council has no call on what's, we could end up with any kind of business on that corner at Goodman and Hamilton.
They have to meet zoning requirements.
If it's,
Excuse me, folks.
President.
if it's zone business, which that area is, anything could go in there. Is that what you're telling me?
Mr. President.
Mr. Dieters.
We have a zoning code, and in that zoning code, there's certain permitted uses depending on what type of zone that area is. I don't know particularly what that area is zoned.
Okay.
But if it's a permitted use in that area, then our ability to limit it will be basically restricted to like setbacks and those types of things, not the actual use of the property. And then even within that, even if you have a zoning code that would restrict certain uses, if you are already using that piece of property for whatever use before the zoning code goes into effect or before the zoning code is changed, that becomes a non-conforming use. So there are some times that uses have been around for a very long time and that they would no longer be allowed to be done in that area, but they pre-existed a zone change, so they can continue until they would ever stop. So there is limited ability to restrict what comes into the city, but if it's permitted in that area, that zone, then it's permitted.
Okay, just one more question. I know you timed me. One more question. When council was not going to answer any questions, Mr. Dieters, you disappeared, but when council decided they would answer questions, you came back. Why?
I apologize. I had a call on something for city business that I had to take. That's all I can tell you. That call was for the city. It's something I was working on.
Please make sure that you sign in with the clerk and start with your name and your address.
My name is Monty Jones. I live at 6932 Marbev Drive. Yeah, and my question was about the fire levy and like what percentage of that money has already been distributed, and is it like what percentage is hopefully going to be distributed? I think you said the next meeting you're voting on it. And then is it council that just decides how it's spent, or does the fire department have any kind of say in how it's spent and how that goes? And then also, just to know, I feel like when we were asking for answers, at least I felt like I was being told, oh, read the meeting minutes, read this, come to meetings, get involved in the community. And I feel like all of us, just by being here, are showing that we're trying to be involved in the community and are asking for answers. So this is just, for me, how I feel if I'm trying to understand and ask questions, receiving a response of, oh, you should be getting more involved, you should, it kind of doesn't make me feel great. Like cleaning up, I do other things. I clean up Rabbi Isaac Mayer Wise Park twice a month, or like once a month, whenever I can go. And so I feel like everyone here is involved, just in various ways, and we are trying to read meeting minutes. We are trying to show up, and I appreciate you all being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Graver?
Was that you, Ms. Brunner?
Yes. A young lady, I wasn't trying to make you feel any kind of way. I sincerely heard what you were saying, and I know you clean up where you are, but when things get away from you after years and years of declining and going down, and we just have to pitch in together just to bring things back up to speed. And like I say, if you don't understand the process, just watch the videos. Watch the videos, and 90% of everything is on this thing that we're talking about are on those videos, and it just will help you tremendously. It just will put your mind to ease on a lot of things that's going on in the community, if that helps. You know, you don't even have to come here to do that, but it'll put your mind to ease at a whole lot of things that's going on currently, you know. So if that helps, and I didn't mean to make you feel some kind of way.
It's Curitan?
Kathy Curitan,
Yes,
6718.
Ms. Curitan, so, I mean, do you have additional questions?
I do, yes, sir. Similar to
Okay.
other residents who have had additional questions, I would
Okay.
like to
I'm
pose.
just
Thank you so
checking.
much, Mr. Graves. A couple of questions that I would like to inquire on are as follows. When Chief Fails was involuntarily placed on administrative leave, all of the news channels knew about it, and that's how citizens learned about it. But why is it a secret if Jennifer Ike is on administrative leave? Does anyone on council have a background in HR law? Or are we just trusting everything Bill Dieter says? Is it true? Can you honestly not speak on it? Or are we choosing not to speak on it? Again, when Chief Fells was placed on administrative leave, the whole city, in fact, the nation knew. Equally, he rescinded his resignation. He said, hey guys, I want to come back to the city. Are we going to accept him back? I appreciate Joe Plackey. I appreciate his experience in Madeira and Loveland and Indian Hill, but we have one of our very own, Chief Fells, who says, I want to come back and I want to lead the ranks. Madam Mayor, City Law Director, Council, are we going to invite him back? Or are we going to say, bye-bye, I appreciate the 20-plus years of service that you've given to our city, but you know what? Because you blew the whistle, we don't want you back. I would like to ask that question. In addition, I will also, I understand there is a hiring for the finance director. I equally understand Deborah Eldridge is the HR clerk who has served as the interim finance director. How is it that a person who's managing HR can also manage the money? That is definitely, again, City Law Director, you would know, that is definitely a conflict of interest. And both of those two parties, Deborah or Debbie, I'm not sure of her first name, Eldridge and Jennifer Ike, they should have definitely been present on this evening. Additionally, I have heard, and let me also say, Mr. Davis, I appreciate your response online. Ms. Alexander, I appreciate your response online because I don't know if it's true, if it's false, I don't know. So we're asking, but what I'm continually hearing is council doesn't know. And that administration knows. That would include our city administrator, that would include our law director, our finance director, which is a void position, and our mayor, but council doesn't know. So Ms. Underwood, to your comment about the family, if there is something going on in the family, not just the mother or the father knows, but the siblings and the other intricate parts of that family know. Your left hand
30 seconds.
should know what your right hand is doing. And lastly, I'm just going to ask you again, because I posed a couple of questions earlier. I'm asking a question again. Before we move forward, why is it that Ms. Ike, we don't know, is she on administrative leave? But when Chief Fells was publicly ousted, let's call it what it is, we all knew.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein.
I don't believe anyone from the city gave the information as to what happened with Chief Fells. In the same regard, that the resignation was public per, I'm not real sure how that got to you all, but I can assure you it wasn't us. But the press, but it was a public, that was the response to something that had already been publicized. Yes, so I'm saying that you all, if it.
We can't hear her
Okay.
online.
We can't hear you.
Can you step to the lectern? Sorry.
My name is Tracy Wright, 7017 Clover Knoll Drive. I've been a North College Hill resident for 24 years. The meeting you all had when the fire department turned in their resignation and they were resigning, you all held a special meeting that day, came out, adjourned the meeting, wouldn't take any questions or anything, and then it was released that the chief had been placed on administrative leave. It was all in the news. It was everywhere. Now that it's going around saying that the administrator is on administrative leave, nobody can answer the question. But nobody had a problem putting his business out there.
Mr.
He didn't put
President,
his own business.
I would say that.
How do you know? So you watch
Excuse
him say that?
Mr. Wilson,
You
Mr.
watch
Wilson.
him say that? Did you watch him say that? Did you watch him?
Please,
Did you watch him say that? That's what you just
please.
said. You're shaking your head. You started.
Ma'am, if you want to address us, please.
He was addressing me, I'm sorry.
I am trying to stop that.
Okay. So my question is, why can one business be put out and the other one can't?
Jennifer Ike sent an email to the fire department at 7:09 p.m. She sent it out and said he is on administrative leave as of 6 p.m. this evening. That was on March 9th.
So to address your concern, that email that she's referring to did not go out to the public. You did not hear council, mayor, or the law director give those statements. She was on the news, but that was after I hear you, but if you let me get my statement out, she was on the news after the mass resignation happened, and we had to address some issues, or I should say administration had to address some issues. I will let the law director answer the question as to the administrative leave.
Is he going to address it?
I don't know if, I don't know if there's a question. What's the
The-
question?
the-
You don't
the
know what the
que-
question is?
Excuse me. I am doing my best to run an efficient meeting and to give everyone their time. And I didn't have to give anyone that didn't sign in before the meeting their time, so I would appreciate that we control ourselves and that we allow the meeting to continue as it stands. And I'll be happy to allow people to continue to talk and ask questions. Again, I made the statement at the beginning because I anticipated a lot of people being signed in, and we ended up with 11 signed in originally, so that allowed us to have time to do this. So please continue to be respectful of the process, and we will continue to try and answer questions. Mr. Dieters, the question was, what's the difference between everyone knowing that the fire chief was put on administrative leave versus the rumor that Ms. Icky is on administrative leave?
Well, I think that one difference is that the second issue is a rumor. I don't know if that's, I don't think it's been confirmed or denied whether she is or she isn't. The issue with the fire chief, my understanding is that when the city administrator decided to put him on administrative leave, she needed to communicate to the fire department to let them know that he wouldn't be part of the chain of command, and to be able to communicate that chain of command to the fire department at that time. I believe from that, it got somehow leaked to the public, and then there was a need then to put a press release out that that was also the case.
Please state your name and your address and make sure you sign in. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Margaret Wiener. I reside at 1612 West Belmar Place. I'm very appreciative because I did not sign in advance, and I'm grateful for the opportunity for this dialogue. This is my first time attending a meeting, and this is awesome. I'm seeing and hearing a lot of my neighbors ask questions, express frustration, and I appreciate some of the answers that we're getting. Ms. DeWald, I heard you earlier, in response to some of these frustrations, candidly say, hey, look, there's a gap between, maybe what we know and we can share, and what's shared with us. Is this an opportunity to close that gap? Is there something that can be done to be, getting more information so that, we can maybe help to ease some of this tension?
I'd love to address that, but at the point we are right now, executive session, which is not public knowledge, an investigation, so we don't have all the answers, and then we have an audit coming up. Until all of this is completed, none of us will really know everything, but we know enough to take the stance that we're taking. I'm sorry, I wish I could be more clear, but
Thank you. Please state your name and your address and make sure you sign in. Thank you.
Thank you. I've already signed in.
Oh, okay.
My name is Renee Stiles, 2090 West Galbraith Road. Wanted to share that I also served on City Council for 11 years prior to becoming a first responder at a neighboring fire department. So all of this EMS, fire, the fire department leaving, and it being downplayed to fire department didn't have their way. we didn't have services at the time is mind-blowing and very scary, especially for those that need EMS service or the fire department if something catches on fire due to whatever. But my question is, it's following Ms. Curtin, is Ms. Enke still an employee for the city of North College Hill? Yes or no? It's a pretty simple question. Nothing? Crickets? Okay. So the follow-up question is, do we have a current city administrator? Prior to when Chief Fells was placed on administrative leave, Chief Schran was anointed or appointed to be the Safety Service Director, which, as was shared earlier, there is no title for that, there's no budget for that, there's no line item for that, and from the fire perspective, there's no qualifications to do that. So I'm asking if we have one, if we don't, do we have an interim, and who is that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Follow-up, sir?
Yes, I think Renee actually read my mind. I just wanted to mention something about the fire department EMS fund. It was my understanding there was an ordinance, so if there wasn't, I would, thank you for passing that. But I want to go over that fund because, as Mr. Dieter stated, that was revenue based on EMS transports, both from private insurance and also federal and state reimbursement. And the one thing key to that is those funds had to be put back into EMS equipment, EMS supplies, and then it was also spent for firefighter safety equipment. So saying those funds are just kind of like out there as extra funds, they can't buy their EMS supplies, they can't restock the ambulance, they can't buy their safety equipment without those funds. So that's why a lot of it was why they were so panicked as far as where those funds were going or what was happening to those funds. And same thing with Renee, Ms. Nichols, I would just ask, we are small, but it's 10,000, you have 60-something employees, I would assume. Who is the current city manager? Who is the current finance director for the city? And I don't see why the employment is Ms. Jen Ecke, an employee of North College Hill, and Mr. Deers, maybe you can answer that, how that is protected under some type of personnel issue if they're an employee or not. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Ms. Nichols.
I will speak on the finance director. Ms. Eldridge is not our finance director. She was not acting as the finance director. We actually have a contractor who is Ms. Michelle Grease, and she is the one working our finance books. She is not a finance director. Ms. Eldridge was HR. So we do not have a finance director. We actually have interviews lined up for a finance director. I'm sorry. I will, again, I cannot discuss.
Mr. President, I asked
Mr.
you,
Dieters.
there's things sometimes that you can say it, and sometimes it's timing. I will tell you that, I'll ask the same thing. I need you to be patient for a few more days before we can release certain things. And that is out of a courtesy for all of those involved. I know many of you are here because you're kind of on one side of this issue, and I completely understand that. I will tell you, there was a lot of fault to go around on both sides of this issue. And I am not at liberty to explain all that, and I wouldn't, because that would be like airing kind of dirty laundry from people, and I don't want to do that. I will tell you that there was a lot of culpability on both ends of this process. I believe it's been resolved. I believe we're moving forward. But there are certain things that can be said right now, and there are certain things that can't. And that's because not everything is completely resolved yet, okay? That's the best I can do.
Yes, ma'am, you have more?
Yes, I have more. I'm Gloria
Thank you.
Holland. Question is, when are we going to find out about Chief Fells? He's on administrative leave. We're not allowed to know why. Is he allowed to address and tell people what's going on? You guys put him on administrative leave. Are you giving him the opportunity to defend himself?
No one here can control what Chief Fellows says. He's free to say whatever he wants to say.
Okay, so where do we go from here? If he's on administrative leave, what's the next move? When does he get to come off? Does he get to come back?
Again, we can't answer those questions right now. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, honestly, I don't think you guys have really answered any of our questions. You say you
Mr.
can't,
President, Mr. President,
Ms. Alexander?
I just want to say council cannot put people on leave. I mean, I just feel like everybody's looking. Council cannot put anybody on leave.
So who's responsible for putting people on administrative leave? Where does that end up coming from? Anybody? Does anybody know who decides to put somebody on administrative leave?
That would be the city administrator would have the authority to do that.
So she's the one who decides who goes on administrative leave and who doesn't. You guys have no say in anything she does? So we are paying this woman's salary. She's making decisions for us, and the people we elect have no say in what she does? Is that what you're saying? She just comes in here and does what she wants, and you guys all agree with it? Or she doesn't ask you for agreement?
I think you're grossly oversimplifying an issue.
No, I'm not grossly, no.
yeah.
You said that, you're the one told us she did that. I asked a question if anyone had any say over the matter also.
Okay,
Don't
yeah.
sit there and put words in my mouth.
I'm not, but you interrupted me and I was going to continue, okay? So thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I feel like I need to say this to all of you because you're sitting here. And I am an attorney. This is our attorney. He's asked us not to say certain things. But I will say this. I do support Brian Phelps. And I have not made that a secret to anybody. I absolutely support him, okay? There are some things we need to figure out. We will get it figured out. Trust and believe that, okay? There are certain things I can't say. I can't speak on it, can't answer your questions. I apologize for that. We're going in circles. I apologize for that too. I am following the advice of our attorney, but I will say that, okay? So we will get it figured out. We will. So, again, what I said before stands. I will say that. I hope that that at least, you know, there's something, alleviates something for some people. But we cannot go against the advice of our attorney. It is. I am also an attorney, but, and the last piece of advice I gave a client once was, you know, don't go to trial. They went to trial. They're now in prison. So sometimes when you don't follow your attorney's advice, bad things happen. So I'm going to choose to follow his advice today.
Mr. President.
Excuse me. Ma'am, do you?
Thank you.
Ma'am, do you have any other questions?
Okay, I want to say, I don't think anybody thinks, oh, all council got together and they did this because they don't like Brian. Nobody thinks that. I'm sure there's people up on council that you guys don't even know what's going on because they can't tell us what's going on either, so we don't know how much you know. But we think we deserve a right to know what's going on since we are the people who live here. It's our taxpayers' money. We elected people, and if you don't know what's going on, we expect you now to find out so that you can tell us because we deserve to know.
Mr. President, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay, I'm done.
Ms. Nichols?
So, just as Ms. Underwood said, I too support Brian Fales. But what you need to understand that when things get to me, the city administrator Brian is her employee or was her employee. So when things get to me, I have a duty, and I don't think it would be fair to Mr. Fales, to Chief Fales, if I don't investigate what was brought to my attention. Some things, he is due his due process. He is due whatever her charges were, whatever she said or feels that she found, it has to be investigated. So considering the time, it takes time. If I'm not the one to do all of that investigation, then we need to find someone else to look into it. There are so many different pieces to it. Yes, do we want him back? But it's not fair that we just say, ignore what was brought. I cannot ignore what was brought to my attention, whether it's right or wrong. I have to do the due diligence to find out if it is, in fact, any truth behind anything that was presented before me. Not saying that he's guilty of anything, but I'm just saying that the due process needs to take place in order for things to be worked out.
Okay, sir, you wish to speak, and I'm going to say that this is our last speaker for the evening. Thank you.
Mike Westerbeck, 6914 Robburn Drive. I want to say thank you very much for the fire department. I know there are a lot of them up here. They've done a great job. I'm glad to see they're back here. I'm a heart transplant patient, and I need them. So I was very disturbed and upset when I found out we didn't have service, because that's my life on the line every day. So, and it's not fair to us citizens, us taxpayers of this city, not to know what's going on in our fire department. If we need somebody to help us, if we need somebody there, I can make that phone call and be sure that they're there. So, yes, we do need answers, and we need answers quickly. And that's the concern, is maybe the law director or the thing doesn't need that. He lives outside the city. He lives somewhere else. I live here. I need him. Thank you.
Thank you. And we all agree that we need our firefighters, our EMS service, our police. February 11th, we called 911 for my mother-in-law who lives in my house. I was glad they were there promptly and that they took care of the situation for us. I got involved in the city government because of my respect and love for the fire service. I was part of the Joint Fire District Board. I went to city council one day and I said I would like to be a part of that when I heard that was going on. And I can tell you it wasn't fun because I took a beating because of levies and all of those things. But I did it because I wanted to try and provide the best fire service to our community as possible. After that, I then had the opportunity to join council, and again, I was on the fire task force that did end up resulting in us passing a very important levy that we needed to provide, again, the best service possible to everyone out there, everyone here, to everyone that passes through our community that might need it. So, you know, I just want to remind everybody that nobody here is going after the fire service. We need the fire service. We appreciate the fire service. Thank you all for what you do to help in our community. But we can't just snap our fingers and fix things that were broken immediately. We are working to do that, and we will get you information as we are able to do that. Look, I appreciate seeing everyone here tonight. I am very thankful for the respect. You guys did good tonight. I appreciate that very much. You know, we will meet again at a regular meeting in a couple weeks. We should be back over in our normal location. So with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dewald.
I move to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb.
I'll second.
Motion for Ms. Dewald to adjourn, the second by Ms. Zorb. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb.
Yes.
Mr. Wald.
Yes.
Ms. Dukestein.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Brunner.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Don't forget, tomorrow is the primary election. Get out and vote. Thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.